Hi, I'm Rigger, this is You Alright, and today we're doing something new. This is something I talked about if you saw my update video. If you are new here, which is possible, I don't know who'd be searching for Avatar stuff at this point, but it's something I wanted to do. Which is, I'm going to watch through Avatar The Last Airbender. It's a show that I've heard about forever. It's a show I saw advertised a lot as a kid, but because of circumstance, that being that it was on what we called here paid TV, which is like cable, I never got to see it. So it wasn't on free TV, which is what I had as a kid. So I saw ads for it, I saw all these kind of things, but I never got to see the actual show. And none of my friends really were into it, at least that I knew. So, being that it's this staple of a lot of people's childhoods, I thought what I'd do is I would do a video series just going through episode by episode and seeing what I think of it, going on the journey. It's all on Netflix, it's easily accessible, so I thought there's no point not doing it. Let's do it. So if you're new to my style of videos, this isn't a reaction. I'm not going to be reacting to the episode. But what I will do is I will go through it. I might use some still frames from the show just if I need to talk about a specific section, and I'll give you my thoughts on each episode as we go through. Now, I think it's fair I should cover what I do know, or at least sort of. I know the general plot, I know character names, or at least a lot of them. I know, who's gonna turn good and bad, and a lot of those plot points, right? And I've seen the movie, which I know is not considered very great, and yeah, I didn't really like it that much, but and so I think that's Volume 1, Book 1, Season 1, whatever you call it. So I don't think I'm going to be shocked by any plot points, but that's not what it's about. It's about the journey. I can tell you the plot points and twists to the greatest movies and stuff of all time, and it might take away a little bit from your experience, but me telling them to you doesn't ruin the story. It's all about how you get there. It's the journey, and it's a series, it's a lot of episodes, so there's a journey to go on, and I want to go on it. Because that's sort of what my channel, I hope to be about, is things we all enjoy. So, I don't expect many views on this. It's not going to get the same sort of reception as, my Ruby stuff, which is about, a show that's still coming out and getting new episodes. But, at least for now, let's try this out. The only reason I would stop it if it was such a detrimental sort of time sink with absolutely no response. And then in that case, I'd just watch them myself, I guess, because I am still interested. But for now, let's just document the journey. So these are my pre-thoughts. What do I think's going to happen in episode 1? Well, I'm sure I've seen frames from episode 1. They're going to find him in the ice in the ball, and we're going to meet, some of our starter characters. I sort of get how that's going to go. But what I'm interested in is, I'm interested in the acting performance. I'm interested in what the music's going to be like. I don't know anything about the music. I'm interested to see sort of how they approach it, and I want to see what the character interactions are and how those evolve, so I'm really curious to get into it. These videos are probably going to be shorter than my usual ones. If you see my channel, I often make 20, 30 minute videos, some of them 50. These probably be a lot shorter, but that means I can make them more easily. It means I can have more consistent content, and it means that it's going to be more accessible for you. These aren't going to take up a huge amount of your time. I won't be doing this big spiel at the beginning of all of them either. So, see if you've made it this far and you're still interested. I'll say, like the video if you like it, share it if you think others would like it, let me know your thoughts below, and subscribe if you want to see the rest of this, because if I like this show enough and we finish it off and this series continues, I'll do Legend of Korra. Why not? It's also there, and if I'm that invested and we've gone on that journey, I'll just continue it. But for now, let's do it. Book 1, Episode 1, Avatar The Last Airbender. I'll be back with you in just a cut, and I'll let you know my thoughts on the episode. Let's see how we go. Alright, so that was episode 1. So, color me pretty impressed. Yeah, I took some notes as I went, so I'll just read them through, and then I'll give you a final thoughts. Immediately, I've heard the first, the beginning of the opening spiel. Everyone knows the Fire Nation attacks and all that. But immediately I'm interested in the father. That's an interesting hook. I either had forgotten or didn't know about, that he's gone to the Earth Kingdom. That's cool. Something that, I didn't know, and I like that there's a trail there. I like there's something to follow, something to find eventually that's out in the world. I have no idea what the results of that are, so I'm very interested that they've left that thread. That's really cool. It's not the usual straight up orphan storyline, which is nice too. They basically are, they have a carer in Gran. But, it's not just, our parents are dead. No, at least they're missing. They could be dead, but missing. And usually in a show, missing means you'll find them. I like that the explanation on the boat when we start. So we did the bending explanation when he's talking about how his sister's weird and playing with magic water and it's not magic, and it's a little blunt, but it gets a pass on that because it's very quick and out of the way early. It gets you up to speed. Like, it's like first scene, episode 1, here's what bending is, here's how it works, here's how obviously some people think of it and others don't, and it being framed between a brother and a sister and like a bratty conversation also helps, because if they're being blunt to each other. So, and that feels very natural for a family, so they've captured a good sort of relationship feeling there, so that's pretty good. My next note is that the rage is good when she was getting mad and flipping out on her brother, and her motions were causing bending behind her and cracking the ice, and it was building. I mean, yeah, you have the easy joke of stop and the person's not paying attention to what's happening behind them, things they obviously should hear, but I'm not nitpicking that kind of logic, it's not that kind of show. But, it gives you a good example of probably how these things are tied to emotions, which they usually are, and how someone who, like her, who apparently seems to be struggling, or we'll find out later that she doesn't have a master of any sort, so she's sort of trying to figure it out herself, how those sort of abilities are then going to react directly to your emotional state and could flare up and those sort of things when you're in extreme situations. So that's pretty cool. And also, then they're uncontrolled and, accidents happen, right? Exactly like sort of what does happen. Next, I'll say that the discovery of the iceberg, I mean, obviously it's so much better than the movie, and I'm not going to compare everything to the movie because I know the movie is considered bad, but just in general, the presentation is so much better. It's not just randomly under the ice, there's a whole sort of journey to get there, and the fact it's sort of linked with bending is cool, that it's linked to Katara getting mad and using her bending by accident. Like, using your bending helps you find the Avatar, that's pretty cool. And sticking with Katara, I like that she's the one with the immediate one to help. Like, he's in danger, he's trapped, gotta get him out. That's a quality that usually has to go to one of your main characters. It's usually like the special person, whoever that might be in whatever series, your main sort of character, or at least the things it's named after, right? They're usually like the super pure, gotta help, people before myself. Like, that's the classic sort of almost, is shonen the right word? I don't know. Like, it's not every shonen character, but you know what I mean? That's a real classic anime protagonist thing that usually goes there. I actually prefer it being on Katara. That's really cool. She has a much more likable personality. Heading into this, I was worried that I wasn't going to like Aang, and I don't know how I feel about him, but I definitely like Katara, so that's really cool. And the fact she is the one with that quality and she's a character I like means it's good, because that quality can get grating if it's on a character you don't like. I find it interesting now we cut over to Zuko. Like, the first question I had is, why is he so convinced that the Avatar is still out there? Now, we hear later that it's tied to his honor to find him, and that his lineage has been looking for the Avatar and they couldn't find him, and then he says it's wasn't, bound to their honor to do it. Like, their honor doesn't ride on if they find him or not, but his does. I feel like I knew that for some reason, but I can't remember why, so that's good. I can rediscover that. Like, he did something wrong, or he's cast out, or whatever, I can't remember. But yeah, I still don't understand. I get it's an obsession, and I get it's something his family's strive to do, but I mean, in any kind of logic, which, this is not a logical show, bending and all that, but in sort of logic, it's like, why would you assume that this person has survived 100 years? But he's right, so be it. And obviously his character has those sort of hot-headed, driven, single-minded traits. You see that with his training, like, I'm ready, and, let me do what I need to do, teach me the next thing, move on, I have to beat him, assuming that the Avatar will have mastered all the elements, which is fair given the time gap he's talking about. So yeah, Aang is somewhat like I expected, and it's sort of why he's definitely my least favorite character so far. He, his childlike innocence is good, right? Like, so, having that kind of character is fun. Having that be your main character, or, well, I say main character, I feel like he's not really the main character, but he's your special, central character. That's an interesting approach, to have them be really childlike and have to get everyone else to sort of, mature you up. And it's very endearing. I wrote, like, his sort of look of affection or crush or whatever towards Katara sort of really helped convey that, and that was sweet. Like, that felt very childlike and real, but that's down to the animation, whereas I think some of his lines aren't the great, like, how do I put it? I think he's not a bad voice actor, or the voice performance isn't bad, but it's definitely the weakest on him. Zuko's is over the top, but he's sort of meant to be over the top in the gruff sort of whatever. And Katara's is really cool, and but Aang's is a bit, hit and miss. But yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with him. I'm not sure how I feel. Upper is cool. I really like Upper. I don't think it'd ever be explained, because he's like, oh, it's my flying buffalo, and I guess that's something that's either extinct or a legend. But it is interesting that it has the Avatar arrow, the pattern on it. So I'm wondering if it's specifically linked to avatars, or if it's just like an airbending thing, and that's an airbending symbol rather than an avatar reliant symbol. I don't know. When we get to comedy here, obviously comedy's going to be a big part of this show. It's a kid's show and it's animated, and comedy's always going to be there, and it should be in pretty much anything to a degree, because you want a variety of feelings. But comedy's definitely in there. It's also down to what type of comedy you like, but I definitely enjoyed the deadpan humor better. So when it was, oh, that's your flying buffalo, and this is my flying sister, like in the delivery, it's really good. So it's really cool. But I like that joke a lot, and then immediately he has his extreme freak out reaction to getting sneezed on is all over the place, and that wasn't as enjoyable for me. The yelling over the top reactions aren't funny to me. I like the deadpan humor a lot more. So we'll see which one we go with more. The animation is really smooth. I really like the airbending animations, everything to do with Aang, the way he moves around, like the little puffs and the little glides, and his smoothness of movements are really, really cool. And the sound department does a great job adding little whooshes and little sounds to emphasize it, just enough that you can hear it without it being dominating to the scene. I was really interested in what the music was going to be, and I didn't find it overly noticeable, except for when we started in the village with Aang. I was like, I really like the music here. The little sort of drum percussion was really nice. But then they did a joke that didn't land, and it did like a womp womp sort of like comedy beat in the music track, and I didn't like that. The show doesn't have to play along with the comedy. Like if then it feels like you remember you're watching a show. Obviously it's animated, you're not going to completely forget, but you know what I mean. It's like the whole show is trying to get you in on this joke, and I didn't like that part. But in general, the water wasn't No, I'm reading part of my script, sorry. The music wasn't overly offensive to the ear, but it wasn't overly impressive, so hopefully if we do get like more action scenes and things like that, it'll become more noticeable. Back to what I was talking about Aang, like his wisdom seems iffy. Like if that was going to be his role to sort of dish out a little bit of things he's learned, like to master bending you have to, disregard fear or whatever. Like, okay, maybe, but it also seems very silly to just like, yeah, no fear, let's just do whatever. A little bit of caution would have helped, and then they get stuck in that trap. The cinematography on the ship was really good. I like the angles, using, keeping the camera confined how you would in an actual film, of like not cheating all of your angles. You get like, frames within frames shooting down the ladder as they walk underneath and things like that. These are really cool shots that someone put some thought into, so that's really cool. There was one line, I have to point out, the worst line of the thing was, again, both of them came from Aang. One of them was just like, when I said his voice acting wasn't too convincing, like when he went, oh man, 100 years, and like fell back. The animation looked like someone shocked, but he didn't really sound like it. He sounded very bland on it. And the one line that was terrible was, that's no good, waterbenders need to master water. Like, that is the most pointless sentence. Waterbenders need to master water. Thank you for that. That was so much needed. And then we cut to like them riding the penguins or whatever. So that line, what was that? And then so the other thing I'll say that I didn't like was there were two repeated things that didn't have to be repeated. So one is where Appa does the big sneeze on Sokka and gets him covered in mucus, and he has his freak out. And then the next joke is immediately that Aang sneezes and flies up in the air. So I don't know why we did two sneezing jokes, it just feels weird. That's not a big one though, that's just whatever. The one that annoyed me was, why did we do two signals in the sky back to back? So you have him bursting out of the ice, giant beam in the sky. Zuko's convinced that that's the that must be the Avatar because it's something crazy. He goes to investigate. Fair enough, I can buy that. That's really cool, and something crazy happened. But the one beam in the sky wasn't enough. Then when they get closer, they get trapped in the Fire Nation ship, which launches a signal flare, and he spots that as well. And it just feels annoying that there were two beats of a signal in the sky leading him to him. So, I don't know, I wish they had found a different way, a different thing to do the second time. I would have been fine with the ship. I would have liked much better if the ship was booby-trapped. It should have exploded, right? Like, Aang just gets her out of the hole and jumps away, and it blows up, and then the explosion triggers him. At least then it's not another signal in the sky he's looking for. But we have our setup heading into the next episode, into the village, and I'm interested to see how that's going to go. I think it's they did a good job in the first episode of not, going in with an action scene. There's no martial arts combat or overuse of powers. You get an introduction to them, but in an interesting way, and you get the promise of more things to come, and you still show off what some of those can do. So again, I liked how casual and liberal the use of airbending was. That for Aang, he just uses it all the time, and it's just part of his movements and how he works. And I like that casual use of it because you have Katara who's trying to learn, and then you have Zuko who's using it. He's obviously very proficient at it, but using it for combat. And then you have Aang who's just using it for everyday things and just walking around basically. And that's cool. It's one of those things that's an advantage of animation where you don't have to pay a huge CG budget to take advantage of using those sort of powers. So if you had a power like that, an ability, whatever you want to call it, you would use it in your everyday life if you were proficient at it, so why not? And that was the other last note. I liked that Zuko saw them get out of the ship and hop away, and he's like, oh, well, that's airbending. Like, you can immediately tell from his movements it's not just like someone talented or whatever. It's like, no, you can't move like that unless you can do something like airbending, so that's him. So at least our characters are smart. No one's stupid. They might be driven or single-minded or silly, but they're not stupid. So that's good. You're not treating your audience that dumb, which is always something you need to look out for a show aimed at younger people. So that's good. Final thoughts. I'm really happy with the start. I am excited to keep watching. I am curious where I sort of, because of what I've seen, I know he'll end up on the ship and he'll get away, those sort of things, but like I said, that's only the dot points. I want to see how we get there, and so far I'm pretty happy with just how we got through episode 1. It was a bit different than what I thought it would be. I liked a lot of the presentation, and I've heard that, like anything, some episodes are better than others, but as a start, it's solid. If I saw this on TV and I watched through it, I'd definitely want to see the next episode, and that's all you can ask from it. So this is the start of the journey of the Avatar, I guess, and we'll see how we go next time. Thank you so much. If you like it, share it if you think others would like it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe for more. Until next time, never forget that a waterbender needs to master water. My name is Rigger, hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.